Chapter 4. Blind Man's Bluff. The sea chest is opened. I told my mother all that I knew, and both of us realized that the captain's terrible shipmates would soon be coming for his chest, and that we would never get the money we were owed. We heard footsteps in the dark, and were haunted by visions in the mist. We made up our minds to go to the nearest town to seek help, and were soon running scared. We ran on through the night, and were happy to see the lights of the town burning brightly, but it was all for nothing. When we told the townspeople what had happened and mentioned the name Captain Flint, they all hid, afraid to help us. They would seek out the doctor's aid, but they would not help us defend our inn. My mother cursed the men, and told them we would risk returning alone. All they would do was to give me a loaded pistol, and to promise to have horses for us when we returned in case we needed them. We headed back home in the dark, moonless night through drifting fog. We somehow found our way back to the Admiral Benbow, where we bolted the door behind us, having only the captain's dead body for company. I reached down to his hand and found the crumpled paper he had so feared getting, the one with the words on it that read, "You have till 10. Suddenly, our clock began chiming, and we heard that it was only 6, and we cheered. We still had 4 hours before anything could happen. I felt through his pockets for the key, but found only a pocket knife and compass. My mother suggested that it might be around his neck, so I tore open his shirt, and there, sure enough, hanging on a string, was the key. We hurried to his room and spotted the old battered chest. My mother quickly turned the key in the lock, and it had opened. Inside were carefully cleaned, unworn clothing, pistols, silver, and trinkets from faraway lands. Beneath those things were parchment scrolls and a sack of gold. My mother insisted on taking only what was owed us. As we sat counting out the foreign coins, I grabbed her arm hard, holding a finger to my mouth. From the street, I heard the tapping of the blind man's cane, and then heard him pulling at the lock of the door. When it wouldn't open, we heard him retreat, tapping into the night. "Mother," I said, "let's take it all and go." But she would not. And then suddenly, we heard a whistle from the street, and she quickly changed her mind. "I'll take what I have," she exclaimed, "and I'll take the bundle of old papers to make it even." With that, we jumped up and sprinted downstairs, opened the door, and ran into the street. As we went on our way, the mist began to disappear, and we saw that we were not a moment too soon. The moon rose high, and we would have been exposed had we stayed still. Again, we heard voices coming our way, and my mother turned to me. "Take this money. I'm going to faint." As she did so, I caught her in my arms and dragged her under the low bridge by the Admiral Benbow. We could still hear the voices within earshot of the inn. I crouched as low as I could. Chapter 5. The Last of the Blind Man. Curiosity drove out fear. I crept from under the bridge to the edge of the road and watched as my enemies' heads rose up out of the mist. They were led by the blind man, and soon 7 or 8 of them had reached the door. "Down with the door!" he cried, and soon they were rushing at it, surprised to find it open. Their terrible leader urged them on. They were in the Admiral in a moment, and suddenly I heard a startled cry. "Bill's dead!" The blind man told them to stop their blubbering, and to search his body for the key. They rushed up the stairs, threw open the window, and started yelling. "Listen, old Bill! Someone's been here before us! The chest is torn apart, but the money's here!" "Drat the money," he answered. "Where is Flint's fist? Is it on his body?" The men searched, but found him bare. Then Blind Man Pugh cried out, "It's that boy. I wish I had put his eyes out. They were just here. They had the door bolted just before. They must be close. Fan out! Find them!" They roared through the inn, knocking things about as they tried to find us. Then we heard a whistle from the hill ring out 2 times. "That means it's dark," said one man. "We'll have to get a move on now." But Pugh lashed out at them, calling Dirk a coward, and all of them fools for not searching harder.
Find it, and we'll live like kings. You were all too cowardly to face Bill, all except for me, and I was blind!"
And with that, Pew began to strike at them with his cane, causing a great uproar among them. Soon they were fighting like cats and dogs. Suddenly the sound was broken by that of hooves and the ring of a pistol shot. The buccaneers turned and ran in every direction. Only Pew was left, tapping and cursing and crying out their names as he passed right by me. When he heard the riders, he spun and ran in a panic. Slipping beneath one of their horses, he fell at their feet, now quite still. I soon saw it was a boy from the town and several officers. They immediately understood what had happened and took off in pursuit, slowed down by the weather and the need for their horses to go up steep hills. When they arrived at the docks, they saw that a small boat had already been set loose and that the scoundrels had escaped scot-free. My mother had recovered in the inn, but not old blind Pew. The man was more dead than stone. At the inn, we discovered everything in a wreck. After telling them my story, the head officer understood that it was the scroll in my jacket they were after. We quickly decided to make our way to Dr. Livesey's house to get it put away for safekeeping. With that, an officer helped me onto the back of his horse, and I was off again, into the night. Chapter 6. The Captain's Papers. We rode hard to Dr. Livesey's with the head officer, Mr. Dance, leading the way. We got down from our horses, but found the doctor out and went to find him at dinner with the squire. We were quickly let in and brought to the great library. Dr. Livesey was chatting with the squire, surrounded by shelves of books. The squire was quick to ask what our business was, but once they knew, I could see their interest and desire to know more. They were cheered that we had returned to the inn, and Mr. Trelawney, the squire, began to pace the floor. "Mr. Dance," he said, "you are a noble fellow and shouldn't waste your time worrying about trampling that blind mischief-maker. The boy Hawkins here is as good as gold." It was then decided that we should see what this packet contained. Two of the men had a servant fetch me something hot to eat, which I devoured. Mr. Dance and the doctor talked over various matters, but soon the conversation returned to recent events. The doctor asked if the squire had heard of this man, Flint. "Heard of him? He is the most bloodthirsty pirate who ever sailed. All pirates feared him, and I once even saw his sails off Trinidad. The richest and meanest pirate of them all was Flint." They all thought that there must be some clue to a great treasure in the packet. If this was so, the squire would provide a ship and use it to search out the treasure, no matter the cost. Dr. Livesey agreed and set it down on the table. We quickly cut open its stitching and found that it contained a book and a sealed paper. They agreed to try the book first and invited me to look closer and share in the discovery. Dr. Livesey and I were puzzled by its strange markings and figures in columns, but the squire knew what we held in our hands. "This is that black-hearted rascal's account book!" And so it was. A ledger of ships boarded, fortunes stolen, and monies owning in French, Spanish, and English coin. We then turned our attention to the sealed packet. When the doctor opened it, a map fell out with notes and directions, along with longitudes and latitudes. And just past a hill marked the spyglass, we saw a note that read, "Bulk of treasure here." There were further directions to a place called Skeleton Island. The squire was overjoyed and commanded that a great ship be found and a journey commenced at once. "I shall be admiral, you, Livesey, will be ship's doctor, and Hawkins here our cabin boy, and will bring along my own men, Redruth, Joyce, and Hunter." He was thrilled, and his face showed it. But the doctor had one thing to say. "The only man I'm afraid of is you, Trelawney, for you cannot hold your tongue. There are pirates out there who will kill for this, and who will take any risk to get at it. We must stay together until our ship is at sea. I will stay with Jim, but none of us must speak a word about any of this." And with that, the squire promised to be silent as the grave.